Endings and significant change are, quite frankly, inevitable. And even though we know this cognitively and rationally and logically, sometimes it's actually a bitter pill to swallow. And this is what I believe the Buddhists and other wise Eastern old religions talk about when they talk about our relationship to attachment being an issue and a point of suffering in our lives. Because I see this quite often, actually, even in discussions of reality shifting, when we become heavily attached to a timeline or an outcome. This can actually create a lot of resistance and letting it go and letting it morph and letting it change. And particularly if you have any control issues, like I used to, and sometimes I still slip into that archetype, what happens is that you want to strong arm reality into being exactly as you imagine or envision, when sometimes the universe will actually have a redirection in mind. Everything is conscious. The universe is conscious. You are conscious. I am conscious, right? And so at some point, you are going to have your journey overseen by conscious entities, higher selves, or fragments of others in the space-time continuum that are assisting you. And so from your point of awareness, imagine that you are on a pool table. Where are you at on the pool table? Imagine for a moment that you are actually one of the stripes or the solids. And the cue ball is coming at you so fast you don't even see it. The goal is to get you in a pocket, right? And what happens is that instead of it just being a straight shot, you're suddenly knocked off course. You're knocked off balance. And you're in the middle of a trick shot where somebody is bumping you on the edge of the table and hitting this crazy angle to go into a pocket that you don't even see coming, that actually helps to win the game. Now, let's just imagine for a moment that you want to partake in playing that game and participate in winning it, right? We could dissect this lots of different ways. And let's just assume that this is in alignment with your desired reality and your highest life path. If we live in a universe where your free will doesn't matter and you're just a pawn, you're just like a two-dimensional character at somebody else's whim, then that's a different conversation. And maybe you believe that you are just a pawn and you have no free will, in which case that's okay too. You're welcome to stay here and learn. But for most of you, you're going to believe that you have some modicum of control because you're a reality shifter and you have free will, and you want to be sure that you're working in tandem with the players of the universe who supersede your conscious awareness. Because when you are at that singular focus of awareness of being a stripe or a solid ball, you're not really going to be able to look up and see where you're at very clearly. You might get a little glimpse, right? Maybe you're in a pool hall, maybe you're in a bar, maybe you're in a place where there's karaoke singing. There are going to be things that are outside of your awareness that the players at the table who come and interact with you and guide you to your highest path or to different paths, they're going to see things that you can't. And so collapsing timelines when they are out of your control, especially when you believe or perceive that you are in your quote unquote desired reality, and all of a sudden, all of the doors are closing, you might be in the middle of a trick shot, transitioning you in a direction that you don't anticipate, that you didn't have scripted out, that is actually in alignment with your highest purpose, your destiny, or your actual desired reality. Because perhaps the reality that is emerging for you looks like your desired reality, but in fact is not leading to where you want to go. Now, if you're into nihilism and believe that there are no hidden forces of the universe, that there is nothing after life, then this conversation and this analogy might not work for you, because you wouldn't believe in being guided. You wouldn't believe in higher order consciousness. And you wouldn't believe in a support team or an entourage that can help to get you where you want to go. I personally believe, having been through that belief system, that that is a framework that actually is empowering in some respect, because you have to do everything, and so you really have to level yourself up to get it done. And in another respect, it's much more difficult. It's like playing a video game on God mode. And kudos to you and hats off to you if that's the direction you're taking. In that case, the collapsing of timelines would be completely a result of you and the realities that you are creating and generating. And then there would be no hidden variables, no hidden hands. And so you would be responsible for everything. And do you believe in that case that your awareness expands beyond the singular point of your life? It's interesting. Because if you believe in different realities that you can shift into, but you don't believe in an afterlife, and you don't believe in the expansion of the awareness beyond your singular point of existence, and it's kind of a little bit of a contradiction, but feel free to email me or to talk to me in the comments if you disagree. It's interesting, it's perplexing. So there will be times in your life where timelines collapse around you. This could be at the collective level. For example, I'm thinking of presidents who have had horrible things happen to them. This is not something that is in your control. It is something that is beyond you, and it still affects you because it affects the policies and the procedures of what happens around you, which affect your reality indirectly. And so in situations like that, you don't really have a lot of influence, or do you? It depends on which modality and which framework you're operating in when you're thinking about reality creation. But that's kind of a complicated discussion that we're just going to leave for now. And I'll just reference back to the nihilist bucket for a moment, because we can see where those conversation threads go. And now, if you imagine for a moment that there are going to be things that come closer to you in your immediate family and your surroundings and your work, things are going to happen to other people that are going to indirectly affect you or directly affect you. And they're going to collapse timelines around you. Like, let's say your boss gets fired. That is a dead end timeline for you. And they get replaced by somebody else, but that takes you in a different direction. Even though the root timeline is still shared among your workplace and the other people that are still there, it's actually a shift to a different timeline and a different destiny line. Because let's say your old boss gets replaced, maybe they deserved it, and you have somebody that comes in that's better, and they introduce you to new jobs, new people, or better projects that actually help you in the end. So it's almost like a shift that's out of your control that maybe you didn't see coming, but it's kind of like a trick shot because it sets you up later on in life in ways that you can't predict and that you can't see. It's like, boom, calling the pocket, right? And so that's an easy example. What's harder is sometimes when we are broken up with, or when we lose people in our life that we're really attached to. That's a lot harder. And I encourage you to practice releasing attachment and to navigating to a transmutation where that's actually in everybody's best interest. Especially if that person was suffering, or if that person needs to grow and change and they need you to let go of them in order to do so, because the relationship dynamic that you have with them is very confining. It's not that you intend on that, right? But it's like the energy that you guys have is almost turning into a stagnant energy, a complacent energy, and they need to go on their next level of awakening. They need to go on their next series of quests, and you can't come along with them. And as a result, this might be really heartbreaking because you might wonder if there's something wrong with you or if you could have done a better job. And the key is to really zoom out and think of it like maybe they are awakening beyond being a non-playable character. That's what happened to me when I got divorced. I was an NPC, pretty much. Before my awakening, I mean, I was self-aware, right? And I had insight, but I was just all about the materialism, one plane of existence, and, like I was kind of a lower version character of myself that was not very awake. And I needed to go and awaken, and I couldn't bring my ex-husband along, even though he was a great partner and a great person. And so as a result, I don't even know if he would recognize me now. And if I recognized him, I would be not surprised. He was not interested in growing. One of the last conversations that we had, I was talking about my consciousness expansion journey, and he said something really interesting to me. He said, yeah, it just takes so much energy to be conscious. And I was like, you're right. It does. And now I can see that this was a great idea that we separated. And, we needed to. He was not interested in expansion, and I needed to go that route. So maybe you're in a situation where things are actually okay, but you need to let somebody go, or they need to let you go. And you need to be clear about that and firm about that. And it needs to be okay. I watched this Scientology documentary last night, this A&E investigative report. And this is part of my reality interrogation to figure out where the F I am, because I'm not where I started. And I have many stories about that I've already covered, but I can't even find the octane gas that my car needed, and preferred. Anyway, so I have to learn where I'm at, and I'm continuously surprised, indicating that I'm not where I started. And I was watching this documentary about Scientology, and I had educated myself on it before, but it's been a while, and I was surprised to see how L. Ron Hubbard apparently was so afraid of abandonment and rejection that he had people sign billion-year contracts, which spanned across multiple lifetimes, to devote themselves to Scientology. Imagine that for a moment. Death do us part, never. Imagine, and all I could think about was, think about their point of awareness and the time that they existed. So this was back in the 60s, I think. And society was definitely not as awake as it is now, right? In that time point, unless maybe that reality layer is vastly different, but I don't think so. And I have good reason to believe that, because apparently the Scientology church was the seat of great controversy because they tried to relentlessly silence any critics or people that dissented, which is a big red flag, right? Really, really big red flag. You can't disagree with me ever, or I'm going to ruin your life. They set up this journalist to frame her for murder. Kid you not. Got her fingerprints, stabbed some random person, and planted evidence to make it look like her. All because she was writing an investigative piece against them and speaking out about some of their abusive practices by members that managed to escape. Now, I don't know about Scientology where you're at or where I'm at. This was a period piece. It was on YouTube. Apparently, you can't really find it anywhere else. I don't know how much of it is propaganda. I just don't know, because apparently the church was also very, very horrifically cast out and persecuted by governments and media companies. And so we have to scrutinize any media reports, many mainstream media reports. We have to just be open-minded that there might be some layers of it that are slanted in a direction that would make the church look discredited and unappealing, right? So it's complicated. But what I find interesting is that some of the documents and some of the ideas that they did viciously go after people and talked about it as being justice, right? And the ways that they went after people is a question mark. But they did have people from inside at that time saying, yeah, if somebody's going to string us up, we're going to string them up. And they did have contracts which spanned across lifetimes. And there were people that left the church that felt as though it was a big mind control program that was trying to take over the world. This is what was in the documentary. I'm not saying it's true or false. But what alarms me is that their leader was so afraid of people speaking out, of people leaving, and of people walking away. And so there was this ironclad grip on people's souls that I don't think is fair or is ethical. And I believe that that is of a lower sentience, personally. So when we are in societies with lower sentient beings, what we observe is that people will grasp on and hold on and cling on and beyond what is reasonable and what is necessary, often because they themselves are afraid that they are unlovable, or insert blank. It actually varies. But what I see is that people do spells and witchcraft to try to hold on to people that are trying to leave. And they do so almost in this unfair way. And I see this in the manifesting culture as well. It's like people will try to keep something alive that is trying to die because they themselves are afraid that they're actually unlovable, or that they're being confronted with some deep flaw that they have, and they won't let a timeline collapse. And so as a result, this creates a karmic injustice, in my opinion, because we should never, ever be trying to take people, like caveman style, but occult style or manifestation style. And so when timelines are collapsing, even if you are very, very attached, please let people go. That's the right thing to do. And when timelines are collapsing outside of your control, it's really important to go with the flow, work on your mindset, and think of it like a trick shot. That maybe you don't understand it unless you're a nihilist and in control of everything. And then I should make another episode for you. I should think about that before I do that. But for the most part, think of it like you have the support of the universe. You have the support of other sentient beings. And even if you're looking around at a world that doesn't make sense, and things are collapsing that you thought were going to stay in existence, and other things are coming up that you have questions about, go deep into your intuition and really feel how safe or not you are, because you'll know. You'll have dreams about it, right? And if you're feeling peaceful and easy, even if you're looking around at total collapse and mayhem, then maybe it's a trick shot, because you'll feel it. All right, so I am a reality shifting coach, and I love helping people shift their realities. And if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me at sacredjourneyproductions@gmail.com. Okay, we'll talk soon.